Welcome to Patscast. I'm Brad Whitaker. We are seeing some reports coming out about Drake Maye, who is, or at least was originally projected to be the number 2 overall pick in this year's NFL draft. And it's coming to me as no surprise that his draft stock is starting to drop, at least relative to some of these other quarterbacks. And obviously, we saw what Jaden Daniels did at LSU. We see how athletic he is. We're hearing the comps to Lamar Jackson, won the Heisman Trophy. And I understand why a lot of people are very excited about the idea of Jaden Daniels coming to the Patriots if he is available at number 3 overall. But based on the reports that are coming out over these last few days, it seems that Jaden Daniels may be leapfrogging Drake Maye, who would perhaps fall to New England at number 3 if the Patriots do want to go ahead with Drake Maye. And I've said on this podcast multiple times that if I have a choice between both of those guys, I like Jaden Daniels, don't get me wrong, and I think he'll be a lot more fun to watch. He'll sell more jerseys. I just think he's going to run to a 300-pound linebacker and tear his ACL and be out for the rest of the season. And I think there's durability concerns with him. And issues with going through the progression and adapting to NFL offenses that may take a year or two to grow into. I don't think Drake Maye necessarily has those problems in the same way that Jaden Daniels does. Now, look, Drake Maye is not quite as fast as Jaden Daniels, but we're hearing some of these ideas that he is a pocket passing quarterback, that he's not very mobile. And go watch the highlights. He is as mobile as they get for someone that isn't overly dependent on scrambling and extending plays, because he is going to stand in the pocket and run the offense and go through the progression and do the right things. But a report came out yesterday from Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston saying basically, I'll actually read the quote here. I spoke to an offensive coordinator earlier this morning who told me that essentially one of the comps that his team is working on for Drake Maye is Mitch Trubisky, who obviously was also a North Carolina quarterback. Good size, good arm, good athlete, but obviously didn't work out all that well for Trubisky when he was drafted near the top of the draft all those years ago. Well, okay, North Carolina guy, good arm, must be just like Mitch Trubisky, right? Like, that's such a weird comparison, like, just because you went to the same college. And this idea that both of these guys are the same size is absolutely ridiculous. So Mitch Trubisky stands at currently 6'2", 222 pounds, according to Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt. While Drake Maye stands at 6'4", 229 pounds, also is 8 years younger than Mitch Trubisky. So presumably, in an offseason, he's going to put on a lot more weight, a lot more muscle. I've seen him a lot closer to 240 in some of the other areas I've read. So that's just Wikipedia I'm going off of. But Drake Maye is a significantly larger human being than Mitch Trubisky. And a couple inches in the NFL really does make a massive difference, especially if you see them stand right next to each other and you see them both play. Now, is he quite the size of Josh Allen? I don't think so. Let me look it up real quick. So Josh Allen is listed at, if I had to guess, he is 6'5". Yes, 6'5", 238 pounds. So has an inch on Drake Maye. I'm looking at ESPN now. It says Drake Maye is 230 pounds. So Josh Allen's a little bit taller, but same physique, and he is much closer in terms of body type to Josh Allen than he certainly is to Mitch Trubisky, who does look kind of small out there, at least running an NFL offense. So I think this comparison, like, I'm not going to lie, this thing is a total psyop, right? Like, if I'm the Patriots, I'm going to have all my reporters, and I really like Drake Maye, I'm going to have all my reporters go out there and be like, Drake Maye is total crap. He's like Mitch Trubisky. I'm going to try to get Adam Schefter and all of my buddies in the national media to write stories about, Drake Maye is dropping. There's some questions with Drake Maye. Maybe he's going to be like Mitch Trubisky, another North Carolina quarterback. And then hope that incentivizes the Washington Commanders to take Jaden Daniels so you can get Drake Maye at number 3 overall. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some red flags, some concerns about selecting a quarterback like Drake Maye, but it isn't because he went to North Carolina. All right. His numbers are actually not quite as good as Mitch Trubisky in college. Okay. Drake Maye threw for 3,608 yards this past season with a 63.3% completion rate and 24 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, while Trubisky had 3,748 yards, 68% completion rate, and 30 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. So, I mean, if we're comparing apples to apples there, well, then Mitch Trubisky's obviously the better quarterback, right? Okay, but have you seen North Carolina play this past season? No protection, no weapons on offense. I mean, Jaden Daniels certainly had weapons. He has Malik Neighbors, who's probably going to be the number 2 wide receiver, would normally be a number 1 wide receiver if it weren't for a once-in-a-generation guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. coming out of the draft, who else I wouldn't mind if the Patriots selected if they're not buying into Jaden Daniels or Drake Maye. But I'm just saying, when you watch the highlights and all that Drake Maye can do, I know we want to make this jump to a so-called mobile dual threat quarterback because we are so used to Tom Brady, to Mac Jones. And have you watched Mac Jones over the last 3 years and compare it to Cam Newton looked pretty good. And you go, okay, maybe we can get a mobile quarterback with an actual arm, unlike Cam Newton had. But in today's NFL, you really need a balance of the two. Look, Patrick Mahomes, he can be mobile, right? He's the best quarterback in the NFL, probably the second best of all time at this point. But he is not overly dependent on his legs. He's not the fastest quarterback. He's a little pudgy out there. Look, I'm going to be honest. Like, he's not the most athletic human being on the planet, but he can move when he needs to. He can throw on the run. He can do all those things. Same with Drake Maye. You don't need a running back or a vertical threat wide receiver playing quarterback. Like, that is not the recipe to success in the NFL. All right, we all said, look, hey, maybe Lamar Jackson will win the Super Bowl this year, and he will be the first true mobile quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Well, it didn't happen. He lost to Patrick Mahomes. You want a guy that's going to prioritize standing in the pocket, going through the progression, running the offense, making the correct reads, but is able to still be versatile, abandon the play if he needs to, throw on the run. If he has an opening downfield, make the throw. If he can scramble. But don't let that be your first option all the time. Don't abandon the play. You hear about Tom Brady talking about, look, if I see cover 2 and I'm running a play that has crossing routes, I'm going to call an audible at the line because that's just not going to work because the 2 safeties are going to pick the crossing routes and those guys aren't going to be open. So, of course, I'm going to call an audible at the line. But when I see young quarterbacks today who are a little more dependent on their legs, much more dependent on their legs than I am, I'm paraphrasing here, they don't call an audible at the line. They just run the play and then scramble immediately. You don't want that. You want a guy who's going to go out there, read the defense, call an audible if need be, and make the correct read. And if not, then he can scramble and go downfield. Drake Maye is that guy. He's a smart quarterback. He's ready to fit into an NFL offense right away. And he certainly worked with offenses in college that did not have the offensive line protection in front of him, that didn't have the receiving threats. And the Patriots, look, I hope they make a lot of moves. I hope they go after Mike Evans and Calvin Ridley. I hope they really shore up that offensive line in free agency and through the draft. But in all likelihood, this is going to take a couple of years at least. And look, if you're going to throw a quarterback out there to the Wolves, you need someone that has dealt with Wolves before. And of all the quarterbacks that are going, in the first or second round in this draft, Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., Spencer Rattler, maybe. The one that's had the least amount to work with is Drake Maye. And everyone up until a couple of days ago was saying he's the second best quarterback in this draft other than Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams certainly had some talent on that USC roster to work with. So look, I'm just saying, I know we want to buy into the hype of Jaden Daniels, and don't get me wrong. If they pick Jaden Daniels, I'm going to be really excited. Certainly going to sell jerseys. Certainly going to be a lot more fun to watch than Drake Maye, in all honesty. But you know what's fun? Winning football games. That's what's fun. And I want to pick the quarterback that's going to help us win football games right away if possible. And this rebuild, the Patriots have a ton of salary cap space to work with, especially after cutting Lawrence Guy, Adrian Phillips. Going to cut J.C. Jackson as well. We're looking at somewhere between $88 and $100 million in cap space. They're going to have some cash to burn, as Drake Maye said. And they have an ability to really turn this thing around quickly if they do it right. And if you're going to do that, look, I like Joe Flacco. I like Baker Mayfield. I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I like Jacoby Brissett. Hell, I like Mac Jones more than most people. None of those guys are you going to be able to insert and sit there and go, okay, there's a really high ceiling here. There's a really high potential, and they're going to contribute right away and get us contending in the AFC East and maybe down the road in the playoffs. Drake Maye might be that guy. Okay, maybe Jaden Daniels is that guy. I don't know. But do not write him off. I think these stories are being floated out to kind of position him so the Patriots can take him. As of right now, I prioritize Maye just slightly over Jaden Daniels because he's young. He has the body type. He can throw and stand in the pocket, but he can also run if need be. Honestly, the comp for me is Josh Allen. But I think he takes care of the football, or could potentially take care of the football a lot better than Josh Allen does. Not take all those risky throws downfield that Allen makes once or twice a game that often is picked off. I don't think Drake Maye is going to be that guy. And if you get even remotely close to Josh Allen, but without the turnovers, then you're up there, right? Like, that's arguably one of the best quarterbacks in football. Maybe not better than Patrick Mahomes, but if you can get Josh Allen, who takes care of the football, that is a home run. And I think it's worth the risk, even if you have red flags, which I've laid out a little bit about Drake Maye. He has the body type. He has the decision making. I think he's ready if you want him to be the next Patriots quarterback. Now, look, if the Patriots go into this and they're not impressed with either Jaden Daniels or Drake Maye, I say you either take Marvin Harrison Jr. or you trade back and compile some assets, or maybe you can, as I've suggested, you draft Marvin Harrison and then you trade back into the first round and snag J.J. McCarthy and develop him, expecting him to sit on the bench and bring in a veteran quarterback for a year. I don't think that's the worst idea. But look, I'm a Patriots fan. I've been spoiled for the last 2+ decades. I want to see us win. I want to see us get back where we need to be. And in order to do that, you're going to need a good quarterback right away. And look, if you're not going to trade up and get Caleb Williams, which I can certainly be sold on, I floated that out in the podcast recently, I think staying at number 3 and selecting Drake Maye is probably the best option, but you're not going to go wrong with Jaden Daniels. But let me know what you think. Do you think Drake Maye is Mitch Trubisky? I'm curious to hear from you. Do you think he's Josh Allen? Do you think he's something else? Do you think he's more mobile than people are giving him credit for? Do you think he's more NFL ready than some of these other guys? Or are you just not impressed with him at all? Do you like some of these other quarterbacks? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to hear. And we'll be back next week unless there's more breaking news in the meantime. But we'll be back with some more Pats Cast. Until then, goodbye.